Hello, I'm Bill LeMay, and thank you for watching Community Matters. We hope you'll continue to watch as we discuss issues facing our community and provide you with the resources and information needed to find solutions. Today, we're learning about the City of Raleigh Museum. Now we're joined by Ernest, Museum's Section Director for the City of Raleigh. Ernest, it's great to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is an exciting museum, and it's kind of young in regard. It hasn't been around all that long. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. Well, the idea for a city museum popped up after the bicentennial in 1992. A lot of folks in the community really saw how wonderful it was to celebrate Raleigh's history, and there was a real need for a place to preserve and present this history. So the Raleigh City Museum was established in 1993. Now, the museum lasted as a nonprofit museum till about 2011 when they faced severe financial charges. And so that's when the city itself took over operation of the museum, renamed us the City of Raleigh Museum, and we became part of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department for the city.
It's a fascinating place to go. If you haven't been, you must do it. The thing that I think I find most fascinating is the history and the detective work that you guys do there. If you could, just for the audience, tell us a little bit about what is it about? What is it that you do, and what will you see?
What a great question. We do a lot of everything, literally. Not only do we have exhibits and programs in the museum that really highlight Raleigh's history from the well-known to the obscure, but also we do provide a lot of research services. We get contacted by other parts of the city and the community asking those historic questions, like, why is my street named this? And can you tell me about this house here? So that's really a great time for us, not only to communicate through the community through exhibits and the programs we do, but to do that really boots on the ground, hardcore historical storytelling. That's what really gives us a great connection to the community.
Well, the mission overall of the museum, there's so much going on there. I mean, do you have this is it, this is what we have to accomplish?
Sort of. Our tagline for the museum, when the city took over operation, rebranded it, we picked up the tagline of then, now, and next. And it took me a while to understand it, but once I did, it was just a great way to reinterpret what history museums do for the community. And so we look at the history, the then, right? As historians, we kind of preserve the story of Raleigh and its people. And we pull that up to the present by the now, and we say, hey, how does history shape who we are and our environment in our community today? And then we do something throughout all of our exhibits and programs that a lot of history museums don't do, the next, and say, how does the past shape the future? And really, that's what the recording of history is. Why do we save history? To learn from those mistakes of the past and to learn those lessons, and to say we can make our community better by looking backwards in order to shape a better looking forwards.
Well, they say you learn a lot from history, and sometimes we dismiss that. I know we've talked before, and you're pretty excited about this. You love the investigation part of it, and you were mentioning earlier off camera, and I want you to talk about that. What is it like for you to dive into the archives and find this information, this genealogy, and then eventually sit across from that individual or the families associated with that information?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding part of my day-to-day job with the city and running the museum is that sometimes we can really look backwards and to solve a historic question or face a problem and be able to solve it for today or tomorrow. And so certainly what we see a lot of folks who are really coming to history through genealogy, trying to see how their own family fits into the grand story of us. And so we work with a lot of community members, a lot of churches, a lot of civic organizations to do not only personal genealogies, but the genealogies of their organization, how they weave into the great tapestry that is Raleigh. And whenever you are able to sit down with these folks and to provide answers to great mysteries, it is meaningful, it's powerful, it shows that the past does have a weight with us today. And those are the greatest times when in our career as historians that really make us the happiest and rewards us the most, when we can bring history alive and give it some meaning for us today.
What's it like when you first reach out to an individual or a family and say, hey, you got a second? And then they begin to learn probably much more than they ever thought they would about their family.
Yeah, it's humbling. We've had people become very emotional whenever we pull out of the past their family stories and how their family has a greater meaning to the community than they thought, because I hear it all the time. It's like, oh, my story's not history. I was like, are you really sure about that? Because if we start looking back and make these greater connections, that all of our families had played some minor role in the greater story of who we are as a community, as a nation, and as a country. So that's, again, a wonderful part of our job is to make history meaningful and to bring that back to folks and say, hey, you may be more important than you think you are.
I think I already know the answer to this, but you're a museum, and so you invite people in to see the exhibits, and those have to change.
Yeah.
I don't get a sense you're going to run out of material, but I'll ask this. As you look down the road for the museum, you do have a responsibility to keep it fresh. How do you do that?
It's a twofold effort. Sometimes the staff will say, hey, we have discovered this great chapter in Raleigh's history that no one has talked about, and we think that this could have a very meaningful impact on the community. This will bring some story to light or highlight some issue we face today and add some historical perspective. A lot of times community comes to us, and I always like to say that the museum is the city's living room. We open the doors for the community to come in and tell us who they are and what role that their church, their civic group, their club has played into the history of the city. So it's sort of a working connection with the community, our historians on staff, and then sometimes we just look at, is there a way that history can inform what's going on today to help us better understand the world around us? So we have to be part historian, part journalist, at the same time to pull these new topics together for the community.
When you begin a project and an investigation, tell us about that. I mean, where do you go to even begin a project, much less finish it?
Yeah, I think we've been very lucky with the City of Raleigh Museum to build up quite a robust archives and put together a fairly well-structured research engine, for lack of better terms. So we have about 9 or 10 part-time staff at the museum who work on different projects for us, research projects, community requests, and not only utilizing what we've got inside of the museum. We have about 8,000 objects just in the museum and about 20,000 across the city's historic archives. So that's sort of our first place to start. What have we already collected? And then we kind of reach out to different databases, through historic newspapers, historic archives, and then being right down the street from the state archives is a great blessing for us to be able to walk down the street and access one of the most robust archival collections on the East Coast. So we're very fortunate to have a lot of tools at our fingertips that we can sort of reach across space and time to answer these really difficult, often the most obscure historical questions.
Well, I highly recommend it. If you haven't been, you must. And it's good to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
All right, don't go away because we'll be right back.